Thank you all for coming on to Live Conversations, Maritime TV Live Conversation. I am your host, Ezinne Azuna, and we're waiting for Otunba Folarin, the Chairman, Seafarers Board, to join us. Seafarers Welfare Board, Nigeria, to join us. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Ezinne.
How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's not beyond endurance yet.
Oh dear. How is your end, given the lockdown in Lagos?
Well, I didn't go out yet to feel the pulse, as it were, but I can know that the lockdown is working, although there are some issues, but I think they will be solved.
Okay. Today on Live Conversations. Live Conversation is a program by Maritime TV. And today on the program, we want to zero in on issues that concern seafarers. We have quite a few of them, and I'm hoping that soon they will be able to join online. We have a few of them joining. We have Niger sailors have joined, and I think they host over 1,000 seafarers on their platform. Hello, Niger sailors. So we have quite a few of them who will join us. Quite a number of them who will join us. And Otunba, you would agree that just like the health workers who are here fighting for us to remain healthy, we have seafarers who are at sea also fighting to ensure that the economy keeps booming, that we have access to whether they be medical supplies or food or whatever it is, just to ensure that international trade continues, And following this pandemic, there's been a few concerns. We have a few people who are really, really concerned about what is happening. We have a few people who are scared. We've had even the International Labour Organization come on with a paper urging government to treat seafarers respectfully. Now, what has the National Seafarers Board, Nigeria, where you head, what have you been doing since the outbreak of this pandemic to ensure the seafarers' well-being?
Well, let me start by saying a big thank you to all the seafarers everywhere in the world for keeping faith with humanity and also ensuring that the economic balance of the world trade is going on. I salute the seafarers for their dedication and contribution to fighting the unknown enemy. Having said that, the seafarers, as you know, are the engine that propel the vehicle of international trade. Nigerian government has rightly, as a policy, opened the ports, and ships can come in and discharge their cargo and go away. This has created a very important supply chain for all the services that we need to fight the pandemic. Having said that, the Seafarer Welfare Board immediately on the outbreak of the pandemic issued flyers showing contacts for where helplines could be maintained. For example, in the helpline are links to our physiotherapist, our social worker, our psychologist, and those who are manning the ports so that they can link up their telephone link lines, their emails, and they can even catch up on WhatsApp. What has been done so far has tremendously increased the seafarer safety, particularly when they come to these shores. Nigerian immigration authorities and port health need to be contacted wherever a seafarer wants to go ashore. But with the climb now, it is not possible to really come ashore. So what we have done is to link up with the ships when they arrive, and also to make sure that all their concerns are really dealt with. In the port of Apapa and Tinkan Port, there are offices where the seafarer, without going out of the port, can get some response to their immediate concerns. Besides that, there have been cooperation with quite a lot of charities, I would say, or international organizations which connect with Nigeria. Western Nigeria, WILAT, and so many others are cooperating with us in getting services and materials to all those who work in the port. Not only the seafarers, but also the dock workers. We shall continue to do this and intensify our effort to have communications with the seafarers, whether that's in the port or on the seas. And we have been having very good response from the seafarers. Again, as I said, I salute the seafarers for what they are contributing to world economy at this point in time.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. While you were speaking, you mentioned that you've rendered a few assistance, you've sent out helplines and rendered possibly some assistance to seafarers who are on board vessels. What kind of assistance have they required of you? And then there's this what would I call it? There's this notion that the lack of data, that in Nigeria we do not have the exact number of seafarers who are either ashore or onshore at any given time, or offshore at any given time, and that this could militate against whatever assistance government would want to, give them. Do you agree? And then, like I asked before, what kind of assistance have you been called on to render?
Well, let me start from the nearest one. Okay. First of all, NIMASA, the Nigerian Maritime Aviation Safety Agency, is a regulatory organization or agency in charge of seafarers. Yeah. And they have issued notices of many exemptions that are given to seafarers at this point in time. Okay. Particularly bearing in mind that seafarers, like everybody, cannot move freely within the shores of any country where they are trading. Precisely, the seafarers need communication. Communication with their families, communication with the manning agents, communication with the regulatory agencies, and the employers, the ship owners, wherever they are. And we have an office within the two ports of Lagos and in Port Harcourt, whereby they can link up and be able to talk to their families and their employers, as the case may be. Besides that, as I said, materials have been supplied to seafarers, particularly those who in Lagos ports, in collaboration with those agencies like, organizations like WILAT, WIBA, and also with Vista in the front line of this action. And we shall continue to do that. We have on 24/7 a social worker that is dedicated to handling any issues that arise with the seafarer. We have also on 24/7 a psychologist. We can actually render some assistance to them, particularly on their mental health. It's not easy to be at sea for 45 days without going ashore.
Okay. Having said that, can we talk about the crew changes and the travel restrictions on seafarers? I know that the International Labour Organization had called on governments to make arrangements for seamen who want to go ashore to leave vessels and just come back to their families. What's the position of this as we speak in Nigeria?
Well, let me start from the ongoing regulations and policy that are on ground. The airports have been closed in the last 3 weeks or so. So any disembarking seafarers and any seafarers intending to join a vessel in Nigerian port will be very difficult, particularly that commercial airlines, which probably service most of the zones of the world, are not operating. So that is a concern for us. And we are also working with some manning agents who can help in this respect. Because when a seafarer is disembarking, he needs to be repatriated to join either another vessel or to go to his home state. Secondly, if any seafarer is embarking on a vessel, he needs to come through an airport. The land borders have been closed. The airports have been closed. So for now, it is a very difficult issue. But notwithstanding, we are looking at it.
Okay, we've also had suggestions by a few people who said that we can have stakeholders come in, you know, on CSR platforms, providing areas where these seafarers can be kept, you know, for safety, the 14-day mandatory period to ensure that everyone is safe, you know, from the COVID crisis, while also, you know, allowing that vessels can go alongside their ships. And it looks convoluted, I agree, but is it something you're exploring, partnership with other agencies, other stakeholders to ensure that these seafarers actually come back home?
Well, the first point of contact is Port Health. Port Health is the first agency that boards a vessel. And in this particular situation we are now, they are to issue any concern that and any way we can help in the CPRS in this respect. It's very, very difficult. They have to work also with immigration. Immigration has stopped using shore passes to seafarers. They have stopped it because they want to protect them. On board is like staying at home, so that you don't have a kind of a situation where you can be infected by just coming ashore. So the first case is one, immigration and Port Health. Those are the two agencies we are working with. Okay. And we are working with them in very, shall I say, serious situations whereby a seafarer is sick, he has to go to an hospital ashore. We have a vehicle that can convey him to any of the hospitals. But if it is COVID-19 infection, well, the way it's treated is quite different from a normal person who is sick. So the two authorities we are working with there, immigration and also Port Health.
Okay, sir. Thank you. But before we go to the remuneration, which is another area of worry, you know, during this period when they are on board ships, you did not answer the question on data. How do we have a pool of data, yes, you know, for seafarers in Nigeria? Can we say that we have, let's say, 5,000 seafarers and they are at so and so place at any given time?
Yes. I can tell you that there is a department in NIMASA, the Maritime Labor Services Department, who has a seafarers unit. They have data on the current situation of seafarers who are on their register. As at the moment, the figure they are giving us is about over 7,000 seafarers are on their register. And okay, they can locate where they are anywhere in the world. Once you are on NIMASA register, the Maritime Labor Services Department, Seafarers Unit, can locate where you are. And they're also working with manning agents. As you know, the manning agents are the organizations or companies that put seafarers on board vessels. They assist the ship owners to hire seafarers. And also, they assist in other areas of seafarers concern, for instance, making sure their family gets some of the money they earn while they are far away from home. Because this is a very big issue. to get your families giving some money or anything you want while you are away. And this is one of the areas where we have been very, very good at. We are working with the manning agents also to be able to make sure that they are doing their own part of the duty. And besides that, seafarers need to be helped in areas of collective bargaining. Because when it comes to remuneration, the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency, on a tripartite level, working to ship owners in Nigeria, and also with the Maritime Workers Union, who are very good at that, to have a collective bargaining agreement so that wages are fixed, and to ensure that ship owners are part of this process. They sign the agreement. In fact, one was signed last year or so, and is still operating now. Okay. The idea is to make sure that seafarers are not shortchanged, that seafarers receive remuneration comparable with their counterpart anywhere in the world. Okay. That is the key area of that negotiation. Seafarers are entitled to the same remuneration of their counterpart in the world.
So at this moment where they are forced to remain at sea, some of them are forced to remain at sea, are they due any payments? Would they also be remunerated?
Certainly. Okay. Everybody.
So where the employer doesn't, what should that seafarer do?
If there is an issue, a seafarer can file a complaint. Okay. He can file a complaint even up to the level of International Labour Organization.
Oh, I see.
If his employer, who have signed and booked him on board the vessel, refuses or even late in paying his remuneration, they can even complain also to the local agency of government, because collective bargaining agreement is tripartite. It is government, is the worker, and also the employer. So it is a valid document which must be respected at all times.
All right, sir. Recently, we saw NIMASA extend the validity of certifications, different kinds of certificate for like 3 months. And a lot of people have really applauded this. Is there any other thing you would expect that an agency like NIMASA would do to support seafarers at this time?
Well, there are other issues like port state control and flag state control. Okay. These are ongoing instruments within the purview of NIMASA. At this point in time, when boarding vessel to inspect compliance is very difficult, but NIMASA could ensure that compliance on port state control and flag state control is maintained. Okay. There should be no excuse at all. And that is a critical point in the welfare of seafarers. Secondly, ambulances that are available should be positioned in the port, so that if there's any need of medical concern to seafarers, these ambulances will not be, there will be no waiting time to call ambulances. There should be ambulances positioned within the port in case there's need to evacuate any seafarer for medical help.
Okay.
That and the other stakeholders too can join in supporting the seafarers. Now, they should not forget that the seafarer is the person responsible for all those palliatives and medicine and everything everybody's enjoying in the country. Without the seafarers, the ship will not move. And without the cargo being here, it will not be available for distribution. I think seafarers should be not only be applauded, but should be supported for their effort in this respect.
Now, with talking still about the training, certification, and competence of seafarers, what do you foresee after the COVID-19 period? Or if it's elongated, what do you think the process should be like?
That policy of elongation of the validity and competence of documents for seafarers should be continued. Okay. Even after the COVID-19 has been subsidized, we should continue to look at, in fact, it's an opportunity to review the policy and see where area we can find some leniency and accommodates the local situations in the certification of seafarers. At this point in time, you probably know that a lot of seafarers who have trained are still awaiting the opportunity of sea time, because without the sea time, you are not competent. You are not fully competent as a seafarer. And this is a very big area of concern, not only for the young seafarers who have been trained academically, who are waiting for the sea time, which is like the practical part of their training. We need to step up action on this. I know that NIMASA have started it, but I think it should be continued and strengthened. Under the National Seafarers Development Programme, these are issues that have been raised. Other ship owners or organizations have done something about it, like the LNG, the Liquefied Natural Gas Company, have trained a lot of seafarers because they have the vessel. They can easily give them the sea time they need to complete their training. And also, we must know that we must provide the opportunity for indigenous shipping companies to be able to acquire vessels, because it has been very difficult to get foreign shipping companies to give sea time to Nigerian cadets. And until the capacity of Nigerian seafarer shipping companies have been increased and they acquire more bottoms and they can take advantage of the Cabotage Act, the opportunity in the Cabotage Act, we shall still be finding a lot of problems in providing opportunity for seafarers to get competence.
At the moment, sir, how many seafarers, do you have an idea of how many seafarers have gotten the sea time who were involved in the National Seafarers Development Programme by NIMASA? And how many...
Well, at various times we are giving figures of which I think aggregate it will be about 400 seafarers that have got that opportunity for sea time under the various institutions and organizations that are taking them up. But we are talking of a large number of cadets who are still waiting for sea time. Those under the NSDP program must be up to 2,000 still waiting for sea time. And those who are outside the National Seafarers Development Programme, probably trained in local institutions like Maritime Academy or RUN, and other, are still waiting for sea time. They must be in excess of over 3,000. And without that sea time, it is very difficult for them to complete their training.
Well, we have a few questions, and before we go to the future or prospects for seafaring in future, you know, in Nigeria, I'd like to read out a few questions. Someone feels that Nigerian seafarers are not protected. Do you agree, sir?
Well, when we are talking of protection, I hope you are not limited to COVID-19. Protected in terms of health, or protected in terms of employment opportunity, protected in terms of being able to complete their training. I think the protection these Nigerian seafarers will be looking for is opportunity for employment.
Okay.
When the seafarer is trained, he needs to be employed in order to practice his trade. In this respect, we should go back to the shipping policy, which was implemented in the 80s and early 90s, but abrogated for one reason or the other. This shipping policy gives the seafarers first right of employment, particularly up to the position of master, the captain of a vessel. And besides, if not, probably only in the area of chief engineer that there were probably some exemptions. We need to enforce employment of seafarers particularly on those ships that trade in Nigerian territorial waters. The Cabotage, for example, has provision for manning, a manning level that all boats or ships in the Cabotage regime must employ Nigerians. That has not been the case. It has been a case of waiver of that particular demand, and that is detrimental to protecting the interest and opportunity for employment of seafarers.
Okay, sir, thank you. Another person has asked of what we are doing to keep the industry safe amid the COVID-19 period when vessels still have their right into the ports. I know it's not directly, well, as you double also as the Ports Consultative Council chairman, so you would really be able to speak about this too. What has the Nigerian Ports Authority done to ensure that ships coming into Nigeria are safe?
Well, the Nigerian Port Authority is the agency in terms of port activities. In this respect, I will limit it to two areas. First is the harbor services.
Okay.
Harbor services provide the pilotage for vessels coming in. From that point in time, the Port Authority will ensure that it goes to a safe berth. It will not go to a berth where there are likely to be problems of berthing or problems of getting aground.
Okay.
Then on the area of cargo operation, which is the terminals have been leased to private organizations and they are fully in charge of activity in that area while the ship is in port.
Yeah.
The port authorities have not abandoned them. They are not saying, okay, we have leased this area to you and you have nothing to do with it. They have the presence of their officers at the terminals. And therefore, they're able to get a feedback of the operations at the terminals and areas whereby the authority has to enforce any regulation regarding safety. The Port Authority has an HSC department, Health, Safety, and Environment. That department is very critical at this point in time because the health of everybody in the port worker, all port workers, not only seafarers, is their concern. And their safety, of course, in that environment. The Port Authority has that department, and that department should be up and doing, particularly at this time. That is in the Port Authority side. If you look at other agencies operating, there are several agencies who operate in the port, not necessarily domiciled in the port, but operate in the port. The National Food and Drug Administration, for example, must ensure that the food and drugs that come into this country are potent, to make sure they are not fake, they are not injurious to the Nigerians who will use them eventually. You have the Standard Organization of Nigeria also to ensure the safety of the material that come to this country that are good enough for Nigerians, not substandard in any way. There are so many other organizations. Even before now, people don't know that there is a quarantine department in the Ministry of Agriculture in the port. They have the animal quarantine department and they have the plant quarantine department. It's about time that we now unleash all these agencies to perform their functions because it will contribute to the recovery agenda the government may have after COVID-19.
Thank you, Otunba. Otunba, please, we would like to see your face a bit more. Could you move? Let's see your face a bit more. Yes, could you move a bit more? Okay, the light is, oh, yeah. Okay, this is better. We can't see you fully, but at least we can see some of you. Thank you, sir.
I'm seeing more of you than you see more of me. But yes. Let me see as much as you could that will rotate. You are seeing more of me now.
Yes, this position.
Are you seeing more of me now?
Yes, so that they can place a face to the very, very intelligent voice they are hearing. Thank you, sir. Okay,
I'll be very glad to do that. And as much as we engage in this conversation, we shall continue to make as much eye contact as we could. Okay. I must say that this is a very important program, and I must thank you for doing that. But we can continue our conversation in other areas where the seafarers' concerns are discussed and met.
Okay, sir. Could you please speak to the future of seafaring in Nigeria? Like you pointed out, we have a few vessels that are of indigenous origin. A few of them are registered on our register at MASA, the ship registered there. I don't know what would you see as the future of this country without a training vessel or anything for seafarers?
Well, let me start from the very much that is possible. Nigeria has the potential to attract over 5,000 vessels a year calling at our ports. Even if only 10 seafarers are manning each vessel, and we have only one Nigerian in each of these vessels are calling at Nigerian ports, it means that 5,000 Nigerian seafarers will be employed. We need a policy that persuade, and if not possible, enforce that all ships calling at Nigerian ports should try and employ at least 1 or 2 Nigerians when they call at this port. That will address, in a way, the employment issue for seafarers. The second thing we should be looking at seriously is to ensure that all seafarers, all cadets that have undergone academic studies are given sea time so that they can become competent and their certification can be used anywhere in the world. This is very also important, because if Nigerian seafarers have certification that can be used anywhere in the world, it means they are employable anywhere in the world besides Nigeria.
That's true.
And that is very important, bearing in mind that many other countries like the Philippines, Korea, and India virtually monopolize the ratings, the lower cadre of seafarers in the world. There is still a lot of opportunity, particularly in the officer cadre, for seafarers to be employed. The future is indeed bright, as long as we get our house together and make sure that training is continuous, certification is guaranteed, and employment is also looked at.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. That's very interesting. Before I take the question regarding women, I'm a woman, so I have to represent my own. There is a question from Emmanuel Mayan. He says that whose responsibility is it to protect the Cabotage Act, especially as it relates to the right of first refusal in the employment of the Nigerian seafarer?
Well, the Cabotage Act is a law which has to be enforced. The implementation is in the hands of NIMASA. And ship owners and other interested people have been talking about this act, implementation of the Cabotage Act, particularly in areas of enforcement. Waiver is given as a way out where the particular provision cannot be enforced. For instance, in manning, which involves seafarers, a lot of vessels in the cabotage regime are being manned by foreigners. And there have been a lot of arguments in the past that we should ensure that Nigerians, as a deliberate policy of government, are giving employment the first right of refusal in the manning of vessels in the cabotage regime. There have been a lot of arguments, a lot of proposals, but still they have not been fully implemented. It is very important that we start looking at the 4 pillars of the Cabotage Act and begin to implement them at least one by one. The most difficult one can be gradual, but the easiest one can be actualized. Yeah. For example, the manning of the vessels must be by Nigerians. shipbuilding and registrations and so on, it could be an ongoing process. But bear in mind, the Cabotage Act is now 16 years old in implementation, and yet we are still not there. It is something that we have to look at seriously, because it will solve a lot of problems for Nigeria. It will solve the problem of the young people getting employed. It will solve the problem of trading, getting Nigerian ships to participate in the cabotage activities, getting Nigerians to be involved in looking at shipbuilding and ship repairs. These are critical issues that we have to look at in the implementation of the Cabotage Act. The act is good, but like every instrument, we phase out if not used properly.
Okay, so thank you very much. Let me take the last question, which is on women, you know, female cadets and seafarers. We have had a situation where, for example, I'll give you an example. Last year, late last year, in partnership with the Ship Owners Association of Nigeria, the Maritime Academy of Nigeria sent some cadets on board their vessels. About 11 of them were turned back because they are females, and ships are not built. Most ships in Nigeria are not built to accommodate females, you know. Now, what you come to mind is that the average woman has her career threatened by a structure. What is the welfare board aware of this? If you're aware, what are you doing? Should there be a policy in place on the reconfiguration of vessels, you know, so that we can accommodate the females? What do you think about it?
First of all, let me say I will not support anybody, be a ship owner or a government agent, that discriminates against women. In my own personal experience, the women cadets in the institutions that have the privilege to follow them up for training have excelled. In fact, the Nigerian female cadet became the first in their department. Academically, they are very strong in all areas of seafaring, either in nautical sciences or even in marine engineering and so on and so forth. So when they qualify, we have no reason at all to downplay their place within the maritime world. I will say that in terms of ship's configuration, well, a lot of things could be adjusted. We could come to an arrangement whereby one level in the cabins could be restricted areas for female cadets or female officers or female ratings, as the case may be. We could really come to an arrangement on that. Then in the case of seafarers who are female being sent back, I think it's unfortunate if that is the case, because I've seen some female cadets on LNG vessels, they are accommodated and they are doing very well. Yeah. So there's no reason why any Nigerian ship owner who's supposed to be in the front line of supporting female seafarers will turn them back. I assure you that we will not take that, we will not accept that, and we shall fight it wherever we know it's happening.
Thank you for fighting for us, Otunba. Thank you very much. It's been an insightful time with you. I'm sure our audience learned a lot. Like I mentioned to you before we came on, we would also syndicate these recordings to the maritime audience that we have. You know, some of them are not able to hook up at this time because they're at work, but I must tell you that it's been a very great time with you. And I must also mention to you that this session with you is also supported by the Maritime Academy of Nigeria. You know, they supported us to having you on board this at this time. And we look forward to having you again next time. I hope you will be available. You know, I understand that it's not easy having the older generation come on Instagram Live. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I hope every one of us have had a good time. And until live conversation comes your way again next week, please stay safe. Keep safe. Wash your hands always. Use your hand sanitizers. And also remember that the life of seafarers matter. Thank you for your time, sir.
My pleasure. I'll always be there for you, particularly for the female seafarers.
Thank you, sir. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.